Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Edie's latest Susty Talk. If you're new here, our Susty Talks are our short but sweet podcast interviews of 20 minutes or less, designed to keep us all a bit more informed, connected, and inspired, even if we are pressed for time. And it's great for today's episode to be catching up with Nigel Sullivan, who's the Chief People and Sustainability Officer at Bupa. Nigel, thank you so much for your time. How are you doing?
Very good, Sarah. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
No, good to catch up. I know we've had you on Susty Talks, but it's been a while. Time flies, really. So it would be great to get a quick introduction for listeners that didn't tune into that previous episode.
Yes, well, look, I've been sort of handling sustainability for Bupa for 3 years now. So we had a new chief executive in 2021. Not new to the company, but Iñaki Areño took over as chief executive. We put a new strategy in place for Bupa, and one of the key pillars of the strategy of 6 pillars is sustainability. So we've been really working hard on that for the last few years. We have a sustainability strategy. Overarching kind of premise is we think that the intersection between human health and planetary health is a space that we can play in terms of Bupa and make a meaningful contribution in. And we have these 3 missions. Mission Zero, which is all about becoming net zero, amongst other things. Mission Accelerate, which is around advocacy and partnership and all that sort of stuff. And then Mission Regenerate, which is around biodiversity and doing more good in the world as an organization. So that's been our push for the last few years, and we have it's I know it's a sustainability community. We all know it's quite a tough gig, but we've made some good progress, I've got to say, and I'm pleased with what we've done. There's lots more to do, obviously.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. And you say that there's lots more to do, but it looks like that work's already underway. Recently, I received news that Bupa is expanding its Healthy Cities programme globally as part of a pledge to support 1 million people to improve their health each year by 2025 and to restore and regenerate nature in the process. So how exactly does that programme work?
Yes, well, Healthy Cities started a while back in Bupa. I think 8 years ago in Spain, and it was slightly different than it is now, and it's developed. Last year, we really tried to do it at scale. So we scaled up. We had 24 countries across Bupa take part in Healthy Cities, and basically, I mean, the basic premise of it is that it's employees, its customers, its communities. We're reasonably flexible about who it is, depending on the different markets we're in. And basically, there's a challenge, and it's usually a challenge to do with physical exercise in an urban environment. Usually, almost always tracked by an app, so linked to a smart device, linked to a wearable, so what that often manifests itself in many of them is how many steps, so there's a bit of a competition, a bit of a challenge, and time bound, over say a month or 2 months or something. And then as a result of that, the act of being healthy in a city and, movement is medicine and all the rest of it, in its own right, it's good, and a bit of competition, as well. It's always good fun. But then we then part of the bargain is that we will invest in regeneration, projects in nature to support that as well. So we launched it last year. We had 10 billion steps, and we had many thousands of people involved in it. We invested 2 million sterling in regeneration projects, which I'll maybe talk a little bit about, how we manifest that. So we haven't just written a corporate check to do that and given it to somebody else. We tend to want to get into what those interventions look like, so that we know that they're good and community based, etc. But maybe say a little bit more about that later. And this year we're trying to expand to 500,000 people involved in it. And what we're trying to do, Sarah, is create a movement. Is really get that message out there that I think by 2050, more than 50% of the world's population will live in cities. We got the growth of the mega cities as well, and I think and we've got a lot of our businesses in cities, as well. So we think it's a good area to really encourage people to be aware of some of the health challenges in cities, to intervene and get involved, and also to look after their own health as well. So that's kind of what we're doing, and building that movement out there to really get the message across around the importance of health and well-being in urban environments. So and to have some fun with it, to be honest, as well. It's a fun program. Yeah.
Yeah, as you say, I think that like that competitive edge and that fun edge will never fail to get people involved. We've done something similar at work recently with a step challenge. But I wanted to get your learnings on essentially engaging the public from this program. What do you think makes it successful? And this year, do you think it could really help to cut through the noise and disinformation about sustainability? We often hear that sustainability is quite hard to understand. It can be quite complicated for the average person, not to mention the amount of misinformation floating around on social media and in the media. So could this really help to enhance understanding and bring people together around their communities?
Yes, well, part of that intervention really is around and creating that movement is around, if you will, democratizing, sustainability. I think one of the things, to your point, often many people feel a bit helpless when it comes to it, a bit powerless. And I suppose in our own small way here, we're trying to give people a sense of empowerment, both in terms of their own health, but also from a community point of view, what can they do? So, some of the examples, we've in the UK, it's because it's not the same everywhere. It's got the same DNA that I mentioned earlier, the Healthy Cities Challenge, etc. But in the UK, for example, we have a foundation. I happen to be a trustee of it as well, so I know a bit about what's going on in the UK. But we have provided green community grants to schools and charities, in the UK. Really tangible things. You can point and see that school had this amount of money and they did this with it, or whatever. So really, really localized interventions. So. Tangible things in the community, tangible things with schools. We tend to focus on where we've got big, conurbations ourselves. That might be in Greater Manchester or London. We've got a lot of people, or Brighton, or but not exclusively. But we do. We've got lots of our own people in those locations. In Hong Kong, it's been about clearing waste in coastal areas. In Spain, we've done loads of things in Spain. We've been looking at contributing to an urban forest around Madrid, and also damaged wetland ecosystems. And then in Poland, it's been very it's also to do with the markets that we're in. It's been very community focused in Poland, not so much corporate customers or employees, yes, but very community. And that's been everybody who participates in Healthy Cities in Poland. If you participate, we'll plant a tree in your name. So lots of different ways of interacting with people, and making sure that they feel empowered and they feel the benefit, frankly, from the money that we're going to invest in those green projects. And so they can feel, that there's a tangible benefit to undertaking a Healthy Cities Challenge from Bupa.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And it's great to hear about how you can take a global ambition and make it really context-based. And we've talked a lot there about what happens in front of the scenes, so what people see of the project. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about what happens behind the scenes. So what happens when you are deciding which interventions to make, for example, investing in an urban green space? How do you know what the right partnership and the right solution is behind the scenes?
So, what we do, behind the scenes is uh, we have a fund centrally for this. I guess, I guess people bid, not in a formal bidding way, but they bid, the various divisions of Bupa, they will say, we think we can get, 200,000 people involved in this year. This is how we can, obviously I'm interested in the overall target of 500,000 for this year. So this is how we can get 200,000 in division X. We can do it this way using the DNA of the Healthy Cities Challenge. And if it's sort of a business case, but not probably quite as formal as that. And if we're happy with that, then we'll collect all that in, and then we'll fund the from a central point of view, we'll fund the Healthy Cities program, and let people get on with it. So we don't, apart from the DNA thing, we don't stip and the numbers of people, which we're keen to make sure we do that in a very responsible way, because we don't want to be accused of greenwashing either, that we've got phony 500,000 people involved or whatever, so we want to make sure that it's tangible and auditable and real. And that's basically it. That's what happens behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, the technology that sits behind it tends to be in most areas kind of centrally determined, and because there's benefits of scale of the app. There's an app that we use for it, and over time we want to build that app into more of our core technology offering to customers. But that's another step in future years. But that's basically what we're doing. There's no big massive machine behind it. It's a few people in my team, and they do a great job and integrating with their colleagues in different parts of Bupa to make it a reality. We don't try to do it all in one big bite, so that's probably an important point. So, Hong Kong went earlier in the year. We had, for those who remember, if it's for UK audiences here, we had Mr. Motivator this week, who back in the day was on breakfast television, all the rest of it. He's still going strong. He's 71 years old, and we had him in our HQ building in London, and we did a 2K walk around just a few days ago around the city of London with all our Healthy Cities T-shirts and banners, etc., to really raise awareness. And then Australia, they go live, I think, in September. So we staggered across the year depending on the seasons and what have you. So we try to get that communication and sense of movement and activity spread across the whole of the year rather than just do it all in one big bang. We don't tend to do that. So that's we had a couple of months ago, we had a big, there's been a real focus on corporate customers in Spain, for example. So we had a big event a couple of months ago, I think it was in May, where there were 250, corporate customers. These are the biggest companies in Spain, that we provide health insurance to, in Madrid, really launching Healthy Cities in that market. So that's how we try to go about it, Sarah.
Yeah, that all makes complete sense. And I also wanted to dig into the nature piece. So I often speak to businesses that are trying to do like a big nature-based solution on like a landscape scale project. So what are the considerations when you're doing something with, for example, creating or restoring a small urban green space, like a smaller city-based nature-based solution?
Well, I was gonna pick up a couple of, because I know the UK ones because I'm a trustee of the foundation, so I know that a bit closer to that. So there's a green community grants fund out there, so that we have. So we partnered with an organisation called Groundwork, and put £500,000 into their programme. So this is where schools and charities can apply for a grant of up to £2,500 to fund a green project, such as an outdoor classroom or a wildflower meadow, community allotments, that sort of thing. And so, there was a lot of applications. It was like 5-to-1 sort of applications to awards, but 230 projects got through, and that impacted over 130,000 people. So those are, that's that's a bit of a cliche, but I like that hyper local way of doing things. I really like that because it's very motivational as well, because you see the photographs of the kids, in their garden that they've created, that in the urban environment or whatever, and it's real, So we've worked with groundwork, we've worked with trees for cities, which is we've planted thousands of trees in urban woodlands, and it's because we're partnering with somebody who does that, it's important to get that right. Not just, the sustainability, if you pardon the expression, of that planting is important, that it's the right species in the right area with the right, being looked after properly, so they grow successfully. And then, and obviously the benefits for air quality, the benefits for surface, water runoff and flooding, all important, parks, housing estates, woodlands, urban woodlands. And then the other one we've done is eco schools. So this is quite a new area. It's run by Keep Britain Tidy, but this is young people supporting them on sort of teaching on sustainability, as well as enabling schools in more sort of economically challenged areas to get an eco school status, which they kind of accredit. So those are the three sort of ways, just to try and illustrate the three ways in the UK we've engaged to get that, as I say, not to write it just a corporate check and give it to somebody, but is actually to be mindful of how those interventions can really support local communities through what have been very useful partnerships with other people.
Yeah, those all sound like super inspiring projects and great to hear about all of that. I wish you nothing but the best of luck for this summer's Healthy Cities in the UK. But Nigel, I think we're just about out of time for this episode. So thank you for coming on Susty Talks today.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having us.